Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. Today we're reviewing Trea Turner's 2024 season. Was it another underrated one from Turner? And has he lived up to the contract so far in his Phillies tenure? We'll break it down on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me for some of my other work in the sports talk radio space. I've been on air at 97.5 The Fanatic for 5 years now. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 3 seasons, and this is my 3rd season as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. I would appreciate it if you did that. That would be awesome if you hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much to everyone who already has. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. This episode, what you want to do as soon as you get done listening, download the app today for Prize Picks and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you may notice the lighting is a little bit weird because of the backlighting behind me because I changed stuff up with where I sit to do episodes, but also I'm recording this significantly earlier than I normally would. I'm actually recording this on Thursday because Friday, my younger brother is getting married. So the day that this comes out, he'll be getting married. I'll be down in Wildwood. Don't worry, I'll be back on Monday for more episodes. But so that's why I'm recording this one on Thursday, getting some episodes out of the way early. Congrats to him, my brother Chase. Who actually has made a debut on Locked On Phillies before. He has been on an episode when the Phillies played the Twins and his soon-to-be wife, Michaela. But that's enough about me and enough about the family stuff. Let's talk about Trea Turner and what in the world type of year he had in 2024, because there was some really good stuff. And then there was some not so good stuff. And then there was some kind of weird stuff. And he had a long-term injury in there. And there's a lot of stuff to break down. So we're going to evaluate the season. We're going to talk about whether or not he's been worth the huge contract to this point. And there's only 2 segments on Trea Turner because, frankly, there's not so much to break down with him because he's going to be here a long time anyway. It kind of just is what it is at this point. But we're also going to, because this episode is going to come out Friday, we're going to talk about who the Philadelphia Phillies fans should be rooting for in the World Series. There is a definitive answer. There's no doubt in my mind. There's one right team to be rooting for, and if you're rooting for the other team, you're crazy. I'll tell you who that is later on in the episode. How's that for a tease? But let's talk about Trea Turner's 2024 season. Now, he was an all-star starter at shortstop. There were 3 infielders that started: Bohm, Harper, and obviously Trea Turner. By the way, anyone who says, Connor, you said you're going to go by position numbers. It should be third baseman next. Sorry, I already made the graphic for Trea Turner. We're doing Trea Turner today. But he ended up finishing the season with a .295 batting average. I believe that was good for 5th in the National League, but it was up there. He had 21 home runs. He played not good defense at shortstop. That's just kind of it. He's sketchy defensively. And that's why people talked about moving Bryson Stott over there. The Phillies have already said they're not going to do it. But I don't know. I look at Trea Turner and I say, all-star starter at shortstop in the National League, batted nearly 300, hit over 20 bombs. Let's just look at some of the other numbers for Trea Turner this season and stuff that he really, really did well with. He had 25 doubles. He had 62 RBIs. He had 19 stolen bases. I don't know what's up with the stolen base numbers for Trea Turner. That's something that's been a mystery since he got here. He had 19 this year. He had 30 last year, which that's productive. But remember, we talked about Bryson Stott. I believe Stott had 31 this past year. Trea Turner is faster than Bryson Stott. Trea Turner had 46 and 43 stolen bases back-to-back in 2017 and 2018. Now, I understand rules are different. Pitchers are different. He's a different player now at this point. That was back in the day when he was a young guy. Now he's 31 years of age. He's going to be turning 32 in the 2024 or 2025 season. But I don't understand why he hasn't been more productive on the base pass as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. The strikeout numbers were better in less games. So he played 121 games this season. Last year, he played 155 games, and he struck out a total. And remember, last year was a terrible season, but he struck out 150 times. This year, he only struck out 98 times. So that went down. The batting average went up nearly 30 points. The slugging went up 10 points. The OPS went up almost 30 points. The on-base percentage went up 18 points. He had a significantly better year than he did in 2023. And it'd be hard to be worse because of everything that went wrong in 2023 and needing the standing ovation and stuff like that. But when I look at what Trea Turner did, the biggest thing that killed his 2024 production was that injury. He missed like a month and a half's worth of time with a hamstring injury, and that's when Edmundo Sosa stepped in and played hero for the early season Philadelphia Phillies. And that's when it felt like this team could survive everything. And obviously we know that now not to be the case, but that was back when, okay, you had bumps and bruises here for some players on the roster, or you had guys missing one or two at a time, and guys were stepping up. So you didn't notice it as much for the team, but it certainly impacted Trea Turner's numbers. And he was fully deserving of being an all-star, I think, at shortstop, looking at the numbers that he put up. But he didn't have a big enough sample size, really, I think, to justify that. This feels like more of like a fan voted in type of thing. Not that he's not good enough to be an all-star, but he does get his third career all-star nod and his first as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. If you told me that in 2 seasons with the Philadelphia Phillies, he's going to have one all-star nod, he's going to be batting, let me just get his combined numbers for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's going to bat 279. I'd say that's a little bit low, but you're going to have 47 home runs. You're going to have 5 triples, 60 doubles. This is all in 2 seasons, 49 stolen bases, 72 walks and 248 strikeouts is not good enough. But you look at some of the numbers he's put up and you combine this year, which I thought was a really solid season, and last year, which was really a down year. And that'll all factor into our conversation about whether or not he's played up to the contract. But how do I evaluate 2024 for Trea Turner? I think similar to Bryce Harper, it was an underrated good year. Some of these players on the Philadelphia Phillies, we're going to realize their bar is just so high. And it might, unfortunately, right? This is the tough thing just in life in general, but it certainly exists in sports and baseball. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. I believe that's a song by some musical artist I can't place. Maybe I'll look it up here. But that's kind of what I think it's going to be. When this core of Phillies players is gone, I don't think you're going to realize how high the bar was set by guys like Bryce Harper and Trea Turner and JT Realmuto, and guys like that are amazing players. I don't know how you can possibly appreciate how good they are right now until you get a chance to see what this team looks like without them. Now, I can't find any song like that at all. I just did a quick search, so maybe I'm crazy. Someone let me know in the comments if they know what in the world I'm trying to say. But go back to Trea Turner's 2024 season, at least as an offensive player, I thought he had a really, really good year. This is going to be one of the ones by his standards. His rating, his grading for the 2024 season is going to be a little bit lower, but compared to other shortstops, it's going to be higher. Very similar to JT Realmuto, where you look at saying, okay, he might have been down by his standards, but up by the average compared to Major League Baseball players. The biggest question about Trea Turner, right? Well, 2 biggest questions. One is, in big moments, is he going to come through? He has not really had the clutch thing go on here. And it's unfair, but he's going to always be compared to Bryce Harper because the contracts are very similar. Bryce Harper, every time he's up in a big moment, it feels like he goes yard. Feels like he gets a hit. Feels like he extends the game. Feels like he makes something special happen. Trea Turner is the opposite. I can't think of, like, besides the home run after the standing ovation, like in that series against, I think it was Kansas City. Aside from that, I can't think of like a big home run that Trea Turner is really, really, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm sure he had one last year in the postseason, maybe. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, Trea Turner should have the seminal moment through 2 seasons with the Philadelphia Phillies. And the seminal moment for him is last year when he stunk, the fan base stood up for him and he hit a home run to repay him in the middle of a regular season. And didn't end up making too much of a difference in the postseason. Like, I need more postseason performance from Trea Turner, and part of this evaluation is postseason performance. And he's a guy that you need to be a star player, not just during the regular season, but all season long. So what would I grade Trea Turner out as? I would give him, the guy batted nearly 300 with over 20 bombs. Played bad defense, but he's not really there for his defense. He's okay defensively. I think people get on him too much. I'm going to give him a B- for the 2024 season compared to his standard. I think the standard for Trea Turner should be batting over 300, over 20 bombs, better defense than what he plays, more stolen bases, more havoc on the base paths. But I think it was a good year. The injury does take that grade down a little bit. And compared to other shortstops around baseball, I'm going to give him I'll give him a B+. He's not like a top of the heap shortstop right now, but he's definitely in the top 10 guys in baseball, right? So that'll put you in the B+ range to me. So that's the Trea Turner 2024 season evaluation. But coming up next, we're going to discuss if it's been worth the contract for the Philadelphia Phillies to have Trea Turner on this baseball team. Are you looking at a guy that is paying dividends, like we talked about with Bryce Harper, on this major contract? We'll discuss as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, let's talk about Prize Picks, though. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. They've got over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. So Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players, and you have a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's not just football. You can do it with basketball. You could do it with baseball, with the World Series going on, hockey, college football, a whole bunch of stuff that you can do with Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the best place to go ahead and check out all of that stuff where you want to put together your lineup. You just pick more or less, and you're playing against other players, right? You're not playing against bots you're not playing against other players. I misspoke there. You're only playing against the numbers. It's super easy. It's not like someone has a perfect lineup and you lose even though you did pretty well. No, you just pick the right answers for 2 or 4 or 6 guys in your lineup, and next thing you know, you're a winner. So go ahead and check out Prize Picks, and we're even going to cut you a deal. You download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So check out Prize Picks. Run your game. So as Trea Turner played up to the contract that he was given when he joined the Philadelphia Phillies, I think the pretty simple gut reaction answer would be no. His current contract status, he signed through 2033. It was an 11-year, $300 million deal. So from 2023 through 2033. You might say, Connor, that sounds like 10 years. You count each season, it's 11 years. Bottom line is $300 million deals don't come around all that often right now in baseball, even with the crazy amount of money that's getting thrown around. There are a handful of guys in the sport that are making that much money. Is Trea Turner a top handful of guys in the sport player right now? He's not. And that doesn't make him a bad baseball player. Here's what we have to avoid, right, with Trea Turner when it comes to his conversation about evaluating his 2024 and evaluating him as a player. You've already had the contract signed. There's no taking it back, all right? You can't say, hey, never mind, we don't want you anymore, Trea. He's going to be here, all right? And you're not going to trade him because people aren't going to take on that large of a contract, but it's not – I've had this argument with John Kincaid, who's on the radio with me on Kincaid and South Tunis, him and Andrew South Tunis. But me and John have gone back and forth. He's called Trea Turner's contract the worst contract in baseball. Not remotely close. The dude batted .295 with 21 bombs. He's a productive player. He's a plus player. He's an all-star starter at shortstop. There are guys on mega deals that are not on the field or not productive or don't even want to play the sport anymore, looking at you, Anthony Rendon. But the point is not to compare him to all those guys. When you get to that high threshold of the $300 million plus contracts and the decade plus long contracts, you have to be a Bryce Harper type of player. You have to be an undeniable top 5 player at your position, an undeniable top 25 player in the sport. And Trea Turner has not been that in either season with the Philadelphia Phillies. Do I believe his ceiling is higher than what he's played at to this point? Absolutely. I think we saw glimpses of it in 2024. His 2023 season, I forget what I evaluated it as. I probably should have given him a D-, almost an F. He was that bad in 2023. So you're looking at a situation where he's had a step in the right direction. He's looking at a great opportunity to build on this next year because I think he did some good things. I think he had a better approach at the plate, but people are also going to, not only are you going to hold him to the contract, which is going to make you more critical of the player than you should be. Can you win with a above average shortstop as opposed to an elite shortstop? Yes, you can. Are you paying for an elite shortstop? Sure. And That's why when I come back to the question of has he been worth the huge contract, the answer has to be no to this point. But when you are looking at the production and what you can and can't win with, which is ultimately what I care about. I don't care about the contract looking good. I don't care about Trea Turner playing up to the $300 million contract. I care about Trea Turner being the piece on a team that can win a championship. However you get that done. And sometimes you have to make concessions. And it's not ideal, and I'm not happy about it. But with Trea Turner so far, you've had to make a concession and say, well, how do we win with him not being at his best? And you hope that he gets to that level that you paid for. And we've got a long way to go, folks. It is 2024. His contract runs through 2033. Okay? There's a ways to go. And he's still a young player. He's 31. I mean, there are good seasons that guys have had it 32, 3, 4, 5. Like, yeah, he'll have opportunity to create moments for the Philadelphia Phillies. His story in a Phillies jersey is far from done. And I feel like we get more dramatic every year because they seem to be going backwards in the postseason and everything like that. But Trea Turner's time here in Philadelphia has just begun. So can he be better? Absolutely. But the other thing, right, we talk about when we evaluate the player compared to the contract, the big moments, especially in the postseason, right? People see they remember what they've seen most recently. And for Trea Turner, most recently was an abysmal series against the New York Mets, where he did very, very little to create opportunities for the offense. And out of the two-hole, you can't have that. You can't have one of your top guys not be productive enough. And he didn't have the worst series, but he certainly did not have the best series. And that's something that when you pay guys that money, you're almost paying, right, when you have what would that be? 300 million. Is that so? 6 figures is 100,000, 7 figures is $1 million, 8 figures is 10 million, a 9-figure contract, or well, I guess even more than that. It is 9 figures, but you get into the mid 9-figure contracts. That's math with Connor there for you. I am a moron. I told you this multiple times when it comes to numbers. But when you get in that zone, you're almost paying for like the it factor, right? The Juan Soto factor, the Shohei Ohtani factor, the Aaron Judge factor, the Bryce Harper factor. This guy is going to change the way this game happens, even on the biggest stage, even in the most improbable spot, even when he's got a tough matchup on the mound, whether he's a pitcher or a hitter. Like, there's just something about him where you know that something special happens. He has that magic about him. Bryce Harper has that. Trea Turner in the past has had that. Trea Turner in the World Baseball Classic, which doesn't matter for anything, but just reminding you, like, that was last year. He had that. He had one of the biggest home runs in American baseball history. And then he went to the Phillies and did absolutely nothing. But my point is, like, he's capable of being that guy, and that's why he got paid the way that he did, but he has not been that guy here in Philadelphia. And that is another thing that people are going to look at the contract and say, well, you're kind of paying for that magic pixie dust of, like, hey, the moment finds you and you come through type of stuff. That's how guys get the mega paydays in baseball. And we're going to talk about some of that with the World Series conversation we have coming up in the Juan Soto thing. That's why it was fresh on my mind, because of the home run he hit in the ALCS to basically send the Yankees to the World Series. Very similar to Bedlam at the Bank, except that one was on the road for the Yankees. Bottom line is, Trea Turner has underperformed the contract. It does not mean the contract is a failure. It does not mean Trea Turner is a bad baseball player. It does not mean the Philadelphia Phillies fans should boo Trea Turner, or that John Middleton and Dave Dombrowski made a bad idea. Sometimes you overpay for an asset that's necessary. Like, think about it. Should I spend $15 on a loaf of bread? No. But if I desperately need a loaf of bread and I have the money to spend, like if I make $100,000 a year, what do I care, right? I need the bread. I got bread. So I overpaid a little bit. As long as that sandwich tastes good, if that analogy makes any sense. Like, the Phillies needed a shortstop. They went and got the best one available. They overpaid a little bit to this point. And that's just to this point. That still could change. But what does John Middleton care if he has a World Series trophy? If you say, well, you spent too much money on shortstop and didn't spend enough at this other position. You hoist the trophy, you win. That's it. And they still are capable of winning a World Series with Trea Turner as the shortstop of this team. That's ultimately what it comes down to, even though he has not yet been worth the big contract. Coming up next, that's our evaluation of Trea Turner, but we're going to talk about who the Phillies fans should be rooting for in the World Series. There is a definitive, clear answer. There's no doubt in my mind. I'll tell you who coming up next. But first, let's talk about FanDuel, because NFL fans, you can keep the season rolling with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You might get a hunch in the middle of the game, right? You want to do a live bet. You want to check it out. So you go to the FanDuel app and you say, okay, well, I want to keep track of everything. Well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and do so much more on the same page where you place your bets with FanDuel, not just for football games, right? For basketball, for the World Series in baseball, for hockey, for college football. They got everything, man. FanDuel has so many sports you probably haven't even heard of. Go ahead and check them out. That's why they're America's #1 sportsbook. Plus, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So what are you waiting for? It's a great time of the sports year. You only have about 2 more weeks until baseball's done. This is the beautiful sports equinox where all sports are playing at once. Go ahead and get on it with FanDuel.com. The World Series. It's a shame the Philadelphia Phillies are once again not playing in it. This will be 2 years in a row that the Phillies have not played in the World Series with a team that was probably capable of getting there. Last year, a team that should have gone, and this year, a team that, when I see what the Dodgers are doing, I go, it would have been that would have been a tough task for any team, dude. It's going to be tough for the Yankees and vice versa. The Yankees are a tough team. This is what Major League Baseball probably wanted. Now, the Phillies would probably not have been a bad pick. The Mets in a Subway Series probably would not have been a bad pick. But coming out of the American League, it was always the Yankees. They always wanted it to be the Yankees because of the TV ratings and everything like that. And New York market and everything, and Judge and Stanton and Soto and Cole, and they've got the star power and the name recognition, and the franchise carries that moxie, or at least they used to. And so it's going to be a high-class World Series. Well, high-class from the history. I hate both of these teams. I'll be honest with you straight up. I hate the Yankees. I hate the Dodgers. They annoy me. They're two of the we're Cowboys fans and we're going to pick a baseball team, so we're going to go with either the Yankees or the Dodgers. It's a whole bunch of stuff that you got to deal with there with that fan base on either side. So I was going to say put the fan bases aside, but that's kind of part of this whole conversation. If you're a Phillies fan sitting at home, you may still want to watch the World Series. If you do, well, enjoy it, I suppose. It'll be great baseball. It's been great theater throughout the postseason, right? But what matters is who you're rooting for. And there is a correct answer. You might be conflicted. You might say, Connor, the Dodgers, they're a National League opponent. I don't want to root for a National League opponent. They annoy me. They were a team that the Phillies handled. I don't want to see them win the World Series because that'll make me feel worse. It'll make me feel like the National League had a chance to win it this year, and the Phillies, if they had made it, they could have won it and all of this stuff. But then another person might say, Connor, the Yankees? I don't want to see the Yankees win it. They took our last chance at a World Series in 2009, and I know you've been back since then in 2022, but I'll never forgive them for 2009, and I'll never root for that team after the early 2000s. I'll never like Jeter, and I'll never like A-Rod, and I'll never like those Yankee fans, and it's that New York Philly rivalry and all this stuff. There's arguments against both of these teams on both sides. So that's why you come to Lock On Phillies for the right answer, right? No doubt, 100%, you should absolutely be rooting for the Los Angeles Dodgers to win the World Series. And here's why. First of all, proximity. This is about self-preservation, folks. The Dodgers fans, a large amount of them are across the whole darn country. They're over on the West Coast. Now, there's Dodgers fans everywhere, but the large contingency of their fan base is obviously in California and the Los Angeles area. They're on the other side of the country. You don't have to worry about them as much. You don't have to worry about running into a Dodgers fan at the Wawa parking lot. You don't have to worry about going to your office and there's Dodgers fans there. You don't have to worry about getting on the bus or the train and it's all Dodgers fans wearing their World Series gear if they win. No, you'll see it occasionally. You'll hear it on social media, but you won't see it as much in person because they're so far away. The Yankees fans, on the other hand, they're right up 95. They're right there, and they're in our midst. You don't think there's Yankees fans in Philadelphia, in New Jersey, in the greater Philadelphia area, in the suburbs? They're all over the place. I don't want to see them walking around with their World Series gear. I don't want to hear them freaking out about their, 28 rings? Screw that, man. That brings me to my next point. It's not just proximity, it's history. The Yankees have had more success historically. I don't want to see them add to that. It's the lesser of two evils, but they have more World Series rings than the Dodgers. I don't want to see that continue to increase for the New York Yankees. So another reason that I'm rooting for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Likability of the team, I will tell you, for a Yankees team, right? I'm just looking at the individual players. Don't kill me for this. I'm not a Yankees fan, but Aaron Judge is a really likable player. Juan Soto is like an incredibly likable player. They have some likable guys on that team. Depending on the style of baseball you like, Jazz Chisholm is a likable, fun player. He's stunk in the postseason so far, by the way. And the Dodgers, like Freddie Freeman is one of the most likable guys. So is Mookie Betts. So is Shohei Ohtani. If you overlook that whole gambling issue thing that still nothing ever came out of. Bottom line is, it's not like they're one of these teams that's like the hated superstar, right? It's not like there's this guy who would be the villain in a movie. I guess Judge probably would be because of the stature and everything. But at the same time, like these two teams, for as much as I hate the organizations, I kind of like the star players. So that does make it a little bit tough there. So I'm going to give them fair credit where it's due, but I'm still picking the Dodgers. And this is one of my common principles with with how you decide who you would like to see win a championship when it's between two teams that you hate. You'd rather take the devil you know over the one you don't. Who's the most recent team of these two to win a World Series? It was the Dodgers in 2020 in that COVID season. Now, some people say, oh, the COVID season didn't count and everything like that. And I get that. If you want to make that argument just to make Dodgers fans angry, go for it. I'm all cool with annoying other fan bases. Come on, we're Philly. We're totally fine with talking trash about stuff like that, even if it still is a World Series ring and we would have counted it if the Phillies won it. But bottom line is, we saw the Dodgers win in 2020. We know what that's like for this fan base. Like, that is recent. The last time the Yankees won was 2009. I was barely in high school. I was in my first year of high school in 2009 when the Yankees, or I guess maybe my second year. Bottom line, when the Yankees won, I was young, dude. Like, I kind of remember it, but I kind of don't. I didn't have a job. I wasn't out in the world. I saw some kids at school that might be Yankees fans, and it was dumb because kid arguments are dumb anyway. I have comfortably existed in a world where a franchise that used to own baseball has not done so for 15 years. And it would be nice if that continued, right? I don't need to hear all that stuff from Yankees fans. Like, I know what that fan base can be obnoxious-wise. I know that the Dodgers won a World Series, and it didn't really change my way of watching baseball. But if the Yankees win a World Series in this part of the country, it will change the way that you go about talking about baseball, because there will always be some rat Yankees fan who stands up and says 28 rings or whatever they're going to say if they win the World Series, and that's why you should definitively root for the Dodgers. So, as the host of Locked On Phillies, the Locked On Phillies listenership, we are pledging our allegiance to the Los Angeles Dodgers. I know they're a National League, like another National League opponent. Like, I know that might go against things, but Yankees fans are worse. That fan base would drive me insane. It's not even so much the organization. It is a little bit, but it's more so the proximity is the number one factor. You root for the team furthest away to win. You root for the team that you'd be most comfortable with dealing with the fan base. So that's why. And it would be kind of cool. I know I said making the joke about Shohei's gambling thing, but it'd be kind of cool to see Shohei Ohtani win a ring in the first year of that monster contract. Wouldn't bode well for the Philadelphia Phillies, but hey, what are you going to do at this point? One of the two teams is going to win. You got to pick the lesser of two evils. So hopefully if you're watching the World Series, you enjoy it. If you're like me, you might have a busy weekend planned, or you might just not feel like watching the start of the World Series because you're still depressed about the Phillies, whatever the case may be. Now you have your rooting interest. And we also broke down a lot of stuff with Trea Turner. Now our next episode will be on Monday. We'll discuss the next guy, Alec Bohm, who wild 2024 season. I don't even know how I'm going to evaluate this guy. Like, Monday's episode is going to be a must watch, must listen, because I is sitting here today. I don't know if he had a good year or not. I don't know how to evaluate Alec Bohm, and I don't know what the future holds, and I don't know who he is as a baseball player, and I don't know what the organization thinks he is, and I don't know anything definitively about Alec Bohm, the baseball player. I know he's tall. I know he has long hair. I don't know what he is as a player. And that's going to be something we're going to go on a journey of trying to talk through that on Monday. So you're going to want to tune in for that episode. But that's all for today's episode. Everybody, hopefully you enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network here on Locked On Phillies, your team every day. Please make sure, once again, you're rating and reviewing wherever you consume podcast form. You're subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. And also, you want to check out during the World Series, I'll give a plug to Locked On Yankees and Locked On Dodgers, our two shows for the two teams in there. If you want to dive deeper into the World Series, go ahead and give them some love as well. All right, I'll talk to you Monday for the Alec Bohm player evaluation. But that's all for today's episode. So I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.